Hey, how we doing? How we feeling? Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm like a little bit of a mess this morning because I'm on, we're getting to the 1 week mark of the self quarantining. At least here in LA, Wednesday night, the world exploded. And then sort of Thursday morning was normal, and then from like noon on Thursday, I guess it was like 2:30 was really when the hammer dropped on Thursday of like do the thing, social distance. So we're coming up on that 1 week mark, and I'm very excited because I have the luxury to be excited. I recognize that. Let's get the sock out of the shot. That's not cute. Good Lord. Be a professional, Raja. God damn it. Okay, so talking about animals today. So the word animal in OP gets thrown around a lot. We talk about it in the context of the animals as, blast, play, consume, and sleep, right? They are animals in OP terminology. It comes from observing actual animals and their energy patterns and behaviors and the human animal and the extent to which we're all connected, man, as like sentient beings on the planet, right? But that's why a lot of this stuff is as trackable as it is at scale once you understand the definitions, right? It's because the goal of OP is to get to the rootest of the root drive of everybody, right? And use that to categorize and type and understand individuals rather than going, well, he just put up a thing up in his bedroom that's got this little like mandala energy, clearly not NF last, right? No, because that's not what we're doing here, right? There's a little more to it than that. But I bring up this concept of listening to the animal today, in particular, in light of the coronavirus and the things doing the things. One thing that I have observed in my social media bubble, in speaking to friends and family, and just sort of like trying to keep a little bit of my finger on the pulse. You can't go too far in this because you'll just get burnt out really fast. But like getting a little bit of that, like let me take the temperature of the zeitgeist, right? Let's just like feel some stuff out, right? So in that sense, I've been trying to stay somewhat aware of like the general mood and the general energy, and just sort of like where the energetic trends are kind of trying to go, and how people are responding and how they're feeling, and if there's any correlation between like I'm super chill, but I'm in a really fortunate position in a lot of ways, right? Like I live by myself. I'm doing fine in terms of job and stuff. So like, right. It's like I'm on the one extreme end of the spectrum of like, we're good. Like it's all good. And then there's the other end of the spectrum that's a little bit more, very understandably, very, very concerned. And are having to take a lot more precautions. Maybe they take care of, they live with some older people. There's some with immunocompromised people, right? So there really is a spectrum of responses on the surface level based specifically on the circumstances. But the other thing that I'm really seeing is whenever there is a time of mass crisis, hysteria, pandemic, right? And even I remember that Dave and Shannon, their last YouTube video, they talked about Y2K and 9/11 as being big catalyst type events. I was a little young for Y2K to like really, really, again. So I was in middle school, almost in high school, but like I wasn't Dave. Like I'm not as old as Dave, and he was like in his early 20s, being like, "Oh shit, yep, okay." Like so he was able to really like go all in on the cuckoo banana pants of Y2K. But I was certainly old enough for 9/11, and I think that that was a real like, now like the world is shutting down. We just are for a little bit. We're just not going to do things. And I think that it is in these moments of introspection, forced reflection, forced like anything that drastically breaks up not just your day to day, but everybody's day to day for an extended period of time, right? Like I remember I was rehearsing for a show during 9/11, and it affected the process of putting up the show. It was kind of bizarre. Like the first day it happened, right? Like it was a Tuesday, and like I didn't have rehearsal that night, but the other people did, and it was just such a weird time for everybody to just try to wrap their heads around what had just happened. I can't even imagine. I mean, I have friends who lived in New York during that time, right? Because I lived there for 10 years, so I know people who were there. So they had an even more extreme animalistic response to it. But I think about what's happening now, and on like a parts level, on my OP mechanics level, I'm really starting to see where I fall in the like play above sleep spectrum, right? Like I have a lot of play energy despite being an IJ, that's what's weird. And something that probably for as long as I live, I will have to sort of reconcile this idea of like being an ambivert and being like, no, my first function is NI. It is an introverted function. I am dominated by my plans, my subjective internal head world, whatever, right? But I expend energy before preserving it, which is not going to say unusual for IJs, because like, a solid quarter of the IJs have savior play. But it's not something we typically associate with that. And it's been really interesting for me to understand my own animal through this lens of a global pandemic. But even on a deeper level, just understanding like, how do I respond to things, right? When we have taken away the trappings of society, and we have taken away, like, I don't want to say morals, but like certainly social mores are being upended right now, right? You can't get away with murder, but boy, oh boy, can you get away with being a hot mess right now. Even probably for the next like 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how all of this sort of shapes up, and if we're able to delay the onset of the peak and flatten the curve and do all of the things that the CDC is telling us to do. Please, dear God, if you are watching this, don't be stupid. Don't have they've lowered the gathering numbers to 10. Like, just do I beg of you, just fucking do the thing. It's only going to be for like a month if we do it right. and then we will slowly start to be able to get back to a sense of normalcy. I promise it'll be fine. But like for now, just please watch Netflix or go through all the YouTube videos that are on this lovely channel. Public service announcement aside, we're really seeing a spectrum of how people are responding to this, but not just how they're responding to the pandemic. That's not particularly interesting to me because there are like 4 or 5 categories of reasonable, appropriate, responses, right? There's the people who, like I said at the beginning, people like me who are on the extreme end of chill because we have the luxury of being so. The people who are on the extreme end of not chill because they don't have the luxury of being chill. And then in the middle, it's like, I'm fine, but I know people who aren't. I'm not fine, but I know people who are, have the resources and I'm fine, right? Like you can break it down kind of infinitely, but basically there's not like a huge like swath of varieties of ways that people are responding to the pandemic itself. But how they are responding to themselves and to others has been fascinating. There's a great meme, and I'm going to pull it up. Obviously, people of all ages are responding to this. But this meme in particular really stood out to me because it's talking about Gen X. And I'm like right on the cusp of like, I'm an elder millennial technically, right? And it was like, shout out to Gen X, the only generation who can keep our asses at home without being told. The motherfucking latchkey kids, the generation used to being neglected by fucking everyone, will be the only ones left. We tried to tell you this overwhelming need for activities and direction was weird and lame, and now look at you. Can't even stay home for a weekend. Motherfuckers, it is not hard. You turn on the TV or pick up a book and you fucking sit there. No one cares that you're bored. And I thought it was a very interesting commentary, not only on millennials, but about how our society has evolved to being so aggressively like high play oriented, right? And how much having high play will give you sort of these immediate advantages, right? Because what we are seeing is certainly a lot of my cohorts, and even it's weird, even people I know who are high sleep. This is what's fascinating to me. Even the people who are high sleep are getting stir crazy. And they're not like, oh, cool, I just get to indulge my savior sleep for the next, as long as cool, let's go, right? But that's, I think it's I don't know, it's interesting to me the way that this whole stripping away of the rules and stripping away of so many of the just day-to-day mechanics has revealed about people of like, do whatever the fuck you want for like 2 to 4 weeks. There are no rules. Whatever your animal wants to do, that's what you're doing. Like, you right now, like, that's you. That's who you are, right? Like, and when we put back on the trappings of society, we will hopefully have a better understanding of our natural drives and urges and impulses, whether it is to expend energy or to connect with people or to tell people to fuck off or to cook or to work out or to like whatever that is. Like, think of this as a true snapshot of you right the fuck now, right? Because you don't have all of the societal norms keeping you in line. There is a there's a great video talking about Seinfeld. So he's an INFJ lead sleep guy, doubling up on the sleep, play last, SF play last. And what it's talking about with him, is talking about his show, and he's talked about the show isn't about nothing. He's gone on record saying it's like the show is not about nothing. The show is about the social constructs that dictate our behavior, right? And again, he's an observer. It's why observational humor. What's the deal with airline food? Right? That's his famous go-to bit, whatever. But there was another video sort of like not making fun of it, mocking it, taking the piss a little bit out of this, out of the show. And they're like, yeah, no, everybody on the show is a high functioning sociopath. And I thought it was interesting, especially nowadays, because it's like, oh, right. The reason Seinfeld is funny is because they live, all of them live outside, like just barely outside of the Matrix, right? Like they're like, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. I have to live in this thing? These social constructs are absurd, right? And their struggle is to be like, okay, well, how do I know that this is stupid, but I have to play along with the social game, but it's stupid. Like we all know this is stupid, right? I posted in the Facebook group. There's a great clip of Jerry Seinfeld getting an award from HBO. And it's interesting. So in his whole speech, again, it was probably pretty novel then, back in 2005 or whenever. It was either 2005 or 2007. There was like a delay in when it was broadcast. But like, it was interesting to me to watch him in that position, being like, I spent my whole life making fun of events like this, and now I have to accept this award. And but what I'm getting at with all of this is like, I think that we are now all seeing, when we take away all the trappings of society and are just allowed to kind of roam free, quite literally, because they're like, go for walks. That's been like a big thing that a lot of people are advocating, is go for walks as a way to get your exercise. Don't go to the gym, don't go to Zumba, like just go for a goddamn walk. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. How many social mores and trappings can we get rid of when all this is done? I know I'm getting rid of some, for sure. Absolutely, right? And this idea of like, okay, well, it's socially, now granted, I've kind of been doing this for a while, but this is, for me, it's more like reinforcing, like, nope, everything that you have been doing, like, you're on the right track. You are living in a more fully human way. And I'm getting that sense from a lot of people. Again, I have a lot of friends who are, educated white collar, like higher edge, like master's, PhD, like more educated than I am, right? Like that's the crowd that I have befriended over the years. A lot of academia, but also a lot of just like New York corporate white collar type folks. And they're all like, wait, hang on a second. Something is wrong. Something is fundamentally wrong with society. We obviously can't do this forever, but I also can't really imagine us going back to our job in the same way. And that's what's been really heartening to me, is all the different ways that people have responded to this and have really taken this time to introspect and like take stock of where their life is at right now. Because now is the time. Like the world is on pause. If you take a pause, even if you have to still go to work, even if you still have all of your responsibilities, whatever, you're not getting bombarded by everyone else's bullshit. Like, even if you have to keep going, the rest of the world has stopped, right? So you're still getting a kind of reprieve, right? Even if you still have to go about your normal day to day. You know, like I have, I go to the coffee shops, and a lot of, not all food establishments, but a good chunk of food establishments here, here in LA are still open. They're saying, no dine in, takeout only delivery, right? So like if you work at a coffee shop and you're, again, assuming that you are still employed and you're not, struggling to figure out like, oh wow, I just had gigs canceled and whatever. That is a very serious, different issue. But for those who are like, I still have to go about my day to day. I still have to live my life, but it's not in the same way and not to the same manic heightened level. Take stock of how this feels to you and use this as a way to calibrate where you want to go when the world gets back on its feet. Because when the world gets back on its feet, it's going to try to go back to the status quo. And I'm going to encourage you to not let it. Be like, you know what? I obviously still want a job, and I still want to go to work, and I still want to like, whatever. But like, I really miss the social aspect of work. It isn't so much the work that I'm doing, but I miss the camaraderie and interaction. That's a fantastic takeaway from this. If you're like, oh shit, I'm kind of really productive at home. Or if you're like me, you're like, holy fuck, I am not productive at home. Like, I need to go out and be around people and be at a coffee shop. I need that extra sensory stimulation, tribe buzzing around me. Not a ton, but like, it's why I never did homework, because I can't fucking do work at home. But if you put me in a library, I'm there for 4 hours. Like, it's fine, right? And so just understanding like the role of communal space in your life, that's a thing that no matter what your circumstance is, that is absolutely something that you can reflect on and think about your relationship to yourself, to the rest of the world, to society, to the social mores that we have found ourselves in. And when we all come out of this, maybe we can start to make some positive changes for ourselves and for the people around us. All right, that's all I got. Again, please wash your hands, stay safe, listen to the CDC. From what I have seen so far, we don't have to quarantine ourselves in most places. San Francisco got hit really bad. Boston, New York, Chicago, like places with a lot of that rely on public transit. Whatever your municipality tells you to do, just fucking do it. Just do it, please. Again, I'm very fortunate that LA is spread out enough and not reliant on mass transit, so I can walk around and go for hikes and, house arrest. But whatever your local government tells you to do, just do it for now. Play it safe. Don't be stupid. Be a smarty. Stay away from those big parties. All right, that's all I got. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will check you guys out later. Bye. And stream.